Air Canada will start canceling flights starting tomorrow. The airline says the plan will allow an orderly shutdown of operations ahead of a complete stoppage Saturday. The cancellations come as Air Canada prepares for a flight attendant strike. The Canadian Union of Public Employees delivered its 72-hour strike notice early this morning, meaning flight attendants can walk off the job Saturday. CUPE says Air Canada responded with a lockout notice that will commence at 1:30 a.m. Saturday. Air Canada previously said it's reached an impasse in negotiations, and that's in the event of a stoppage. Customers whose flights are affected will be eligible for a refund. And for more on the labor negotiations, I'm joined live by Wesley Lasowski, the president of CUPE's Air Canada component. Wesley, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this latest update we're getting is that the negotiations have reached an impasse with that strike notice issued. What ultimately led the union to that escalation today?
Well, the employer came back to us and said they weren't interested in further negotiations with regards to unpaid work and wages.
And based on these conversations, what is the message Air Canada is sending to you right now on their willingness to negotiate?
They're sending out a message, definitely, that they're unwilling to negotiate. And that's why we walked down the path of serving them with a strike notice after some good consultation back and forth with our bargaining committee and seeing how our members are right now. We saw that we needed to move forward with this.
And federal conciliators have also been called in. How do you think their role could change things?
Well, we've already completed that process. So they were called in previously. We had 4 federal conciliators. We went through that process, and then we maintained 3 of them as mediators through this process. So they were helpful in engaging both sides and bringing stuff back and forth. But unfortunately, they I guess, weren't able to push Air Canada or move the mark with regards to where we needed to go for wages and unpaid work.
Yeah, and speaking about that unpaid work, those unpaid hours that flight attendants have to do when it comes to boarding, deplaning, just to name a few, how hard do you think is it for this demand to be met, considering it is still quite a common practice in the industry?
Yeah, you nailed it. It's still a common practice, but it's something that definitely needs to be fixed. We have seen it get corrected at Porter, Comair, Pascan, sorry. These issues have been corrected there as well. We have issues south of the border where it has been corrected, typically called boarding pay. We're looking to be compensated for the safety and security aspect of our role that we do prior to and after flight.
Mm-hmm. And if a strike does happen on Saturday, how unprecedented would this be? We're talking about the largest airline in the country. And even when you look at the last collective agreement, that was 10 years ago. So this has really been a buildup for quite some time.
Yeah, no, it's been a huge buildup. There's lots of demand and kind of what we need to attain to move forward to ratify a deal at the table. I think we've hit the mark on many of those issues. And like I said, there's a few sticking points with regards to wages and unpaid work. I think it'd be a massive blow if we weren't able to get something settled. Our goal obviously is to reach a deal at the table. That's why we issued the strike notice, is to pressure Air Canada to come back and to give it some serious consideration before they move forward and jeopardize the economy with this.
Mm-hmm. And do you have hope right now that a deal could be reached before Saturday? Because they're talking about a full stoppage.
Yeah, I completely understand that's what they're saying. We're hopeful that they will come back. But if they don't, the ball is in their court. So we don't want to inconvenience the passengers. We don't want to go on strike, but we can't continue to have our members living at or below the poverty level and not be able to catch up from cost of living over the last 10 years.
And what would you say to travelers right now whose flights have been canceled or their worries? I'm sure this has been, a lot of public opinion on this.
No, there's lots. And, to the passengers, this is not our goal. I don't feel that what we're asking for is unreasonable. I think discussions need to happen at the table. It's nobody wants to be in this position, but it truly is Air Canada who needs to come to the table, who needs to entertain, and who needs to bargain. You can't just walk away from the process and hope that the government will swoop in for this. So apologies to the general public, but we can't just also walk away and say, okay, everything's fine, because it's not. We have members that are in dire need, and we have things that need to be fixed with regards to our pay structure, and that's unfortunately where we're at.
Yeah, and I did want to ask you about that pay structure a little bit more for our viewers who aren't familiar with how flight attendants are getting paid. How critical is the situation right now?
Well, our entry-level flight attendants start out at a couple bucks over $1,900 a month before tax. So that barely pays rent, let alone food, travel costs, etc. It is dire. You don't have the opportunity to have that full-time second job. Some of our members have 2 or 3 jobs. That's because of the sporadic nature of a flight attendant. When you go away for 24 hours, you're not paid for 24 hours. So it's very hard to attain that. Our members have minimum monthly guarantees of 75 hours a month. So it's very challenging to kind of really understand how we're compensated, but yeah, that's what it is. So it's hard to get those second jobs or be home or have the stability.
And when it comes to the price of flights, do you feel like that could change in the future depending on how this deal goes?
After seeing what Air Canada has posted for what they're making, I don't see that being the big contributing factor here, that the prices would have to go up. I definitely think it's well within their control to compensate people a living wage and still maintain what they have.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Wesley. We appreciate it. That is Wesley Lasowski with the Air Canada component over at CUPE, talking to us about the latest with labor negotiations.